Hello and welcome to my channel. I was requested to make this welcome foam board for a client who is my relative, so I'll be showing you how I personally made it. To start off, I bought 3 foam board from Walmart. I'm pretty sure you could buy it from Dollar Tree too. I also brought out my biggest cutting mat that I personally have. If you're on a budget, just use cardboard under when cutting. I already pre-measured it and my kids helped me measure as well, as you can see with some crayon markings. For the measurement, I measured about 2.5 inches wide for the top and both of the side of the foam board. I don't have a long ruler, so I'm just using my cutting mat to try to line it up and use a pencil to trace it a bit darker to cut out later. Even though my kids scribbled on it when I wasn't looking, I'm just going to be flipping it around so the markings will be on the inside. Again, this is for a relative and I'm not a professional. I'm just a stay-at-home mom who loves art and loves taking commissions from her relatives that is anything art and crafts related. This is also my first time making it as well. I was just given an inspiration picture and the welcome names they wanted on it. For the bottom measurement, I did about 10 inches in height. You don't have to copy my exact measurement. You can choose to make it smaller, wider, taller, whatever you choose to do. These are just my measurement I'm working with. As an art person, you have free will to do whatever you would like it to look. That's part of art. Make it your preferred look and go crazy with it if you want. I don't have any table big enough to work on, so I'm working on the floor today. Make sure you have something to put on the back when cutting. You can use cardboard behind it or cut it outside on the grass, but I'm using my cutting mat, which is what I have on hand. To try to make it as straight as possible, I used an X-Acto knife and a ruler. I don't really prefer the wooden ruler as I keep cutting into the ruler. Also, another tip is to go slow, don't rush it, because when cutting it, it was not straight for me at all. You can see the rough, ragged edges when you look closely after it was all cut out. Also, make sure you have a sharp knife when cutting because mine wasn't as sharp anymore, so it was kind of hard for me. But I also think it was because of the way that the board was made. Because it's actually not foam, it's more paper cardboard like, so when cutting, it's like cutting through zigzags of layer folded cardboard. I don't know how to explain it properly, but you can see it in the video. I also forgot to take off the sticker in the back when cutting, so make sure you take that off too because the sticker makes it harder to cut through. It doesn't cut all the way, so I just flip it around to see where I last cut. If it went all the way through, then I try to cut the same line on the back. Once the inside of the board is done cutting out, we can move on to the second board. I bought the cheapest dry foam from Walmart to use. It is 2.6 by 3.4 by 7.8 inches. It comes in 3, but we only need to use 2 of them. You can use the more expensive one, but I believe some foam are different sizes, so make sure you're measuring it correctly to fit into your frame board. My client told me that they only wanted the foam board and that they were providing everything else at the event. But I went to buy the dry foam anyways because I'm not sure which foam they were planning to buy and if it would fit. So I did my own research and bought this one to put inside for them, just so they don't have to go buy the floral foam themselves and it not fitting right when I do give them the finished welcome sign board. I was going to measure the floor foam with a ruler, but I found it easier to measure it by just putting it on the board and measure it that way instead, and it's faster. We're going to want the foam sitting just a little under the open frame that we just cut so we can put the stem of the flowers in. You can use any side of the foam. This is why I say it's important to know your foam size and all the sides are not equal. For me, I'm using the smallest side of my foam, which is the 2.6 inches, to measure on the board and trace it down. Then I turn the board around and measure it on the top side as well and connect the lines so I can cut it out. This will be my side borders. I need 2 for each side, so I took the same cutout and cut it out again. Then I used the bottom of the front of the welcome board to use and trace for the bottom cutout later. This is how it will look. The foam will be sitting snug like so. Since I already pre-measured the bottom board earlier, now I'm using the same foam to trace out the 2.6 inches to cut out for the top and the bottom of the border too. It's a lot of thinking and math involved. It's like being an engineer at this point. Now that we have all 4 sides of the border cut out, it's time to map out where everything's going to be placed. I always measure with what I see. So what I did is I just put the 2 foams side by side and estimated how low I wanted the foam to be sitting near the cutout, because we want it to sit but not be seen. I traced where I kind of wanted it to sit, then when I went to measure it, it came out to be 1.5 inches low. I made sure it was 1.5 inches on both sides so it's not lopsided when the floor foam is sitting inside the welcome board. Next, I traced the whole floor foam so I had to estimate where and how big it looks inside. I extended the 2 lines I had drawn on the side of the floor foam down to the bottom because I wanted to add some foam board to secure and stabilize the floor foam in place. I also wanted it to have a border on each side and under the dry foam to hold it in place, so I took the bottom of my pre-cut board I cut earlier and used it to measure the area easier. I measured the width for the bottom of the foam to cut out first. Then I measured the bottom of the board like so, because if they ended up using real flour, they're gonna have to soak the foam and it will weigh more, so I need extra support to hold it up, so I measured the bottom and the side like so to cut out. You can do as many cutout as you want. If you want more or less support, I wasn't sure what they were planning to use, So I did 3 cutout for the bottom to hold up for the foam weight just in case they did use real flowers and soak the foam with water, which they did. The inside of the side of the board helps the foam to stay in place so it doesn't slide everywhere. This is everything all laid out. Then I just use hot glue to glue everything down. Make sure you have a lot of hot glue sticks because it definitely took a lot of hot glue to glue everything down. There were times I did use E6000, but it did not help at all because it doesn't dry as fast as hot glue does. Some areas I glued both sides and other areas I went over it again and glued more to secure it in place. When gluing everything down, you might notice that some arrows would be a bit longer than expected. Just trim it down if you need to. Like for example, I didn't take the bottom of the board into consideration that it needs to be slightly shorter to fit in between the inner wall of the sides until gluing everything down. I was using a coloring page my kids were coloring to put under my glue gun so the glue didn't get on the floor. Also, I was very limited with the length of the glue gun cord because I didn't have an extension cord, so I'm pulling the cord as far as I can from the plug to use. Sorry for all the junk you see on the floor, I haven't gotten it clean just yet. My little assistant always has to bring her emotional support blanket with her and help assist by touching and analyzing everything for me. Now I'm finishing up the last border, then I can glue down the back piece to finish it off. I did a quick test to see if the floor foam was going to fit, and it did. Because I suck at cutting straight, I had to go back and trim some excess pieces that were keeping the back foam from being flat. I tried to use E6000 on the inside of the board to hold the backboard in place because I know if I apply hot glue there, it's definitely going to dry before I put the board on. Then I just hot glue all the sides to seal it in and hold it in place. There's a lot of open gaps, so I just had to try to put hot glue and hold it until it dries to stay in place. It's okay if the gaps are still a little open. I don't know about you, but I have ADHD and I will go apply hot glue to cover the holes completely until I don't see any open holes. But also it's handmade, so it's okay if it looks a bit messy. Here it is, all glued together. It looks easy, but it's definitely time consuming to do. It's the next day and it's time for the welcome sign to be put on. I always guesstimate when measuring, but as you can see, I'm using my Cricut mat to measure the area under the cutout frame. The regular mat was kinda small, so I'm using the longer cutting mat to measure. I counted about 15 squares, so that comes out to be 15 inches across. I already pre-made my sign. I used Procreate to type out my words and numbers, then went to Design Space to upload it. You can just type in Design Space if you have the font already, but I don't subscribe to Design Space, so I usually outsource, then bring it back to Design Space and erase all the background and inside the letters and numbers. I made sure my welcome sign was inside the 15-inch border that I guesstimated earlier, but because the wings of the welcome sign is longer than the words, it was okay to just leave it at 15 inches. I bought a huge roll of Crystal Craft on Amazon, so this is the permanent vinyl I will be using. You can use whatever vinyl you like, or you can even freehand on the welcome sign by making it your own design. I have bad handwriting and my client wanted the welcome with the wings font type of look, so we're going for this look. We're cutting out 16 inches just to be on the safe side when cutting the welcome word. I love this roll because it has the grid on the back. I never have any problems with this roll and have had it for years since I hardly use it. I have a couple scrap vinyls from the previous project that I was planning to use too, but I decided not to use it at the end, because it was just easier to cut this whole thing out to use instead of laying out scraps one by one. I'm at the kitchen table, so ignore the drink and sriracha bottle. I like to cut off the excess vinyl that the Cricut didn't cut out to use for another time. You can weed it first, but I'm weird and I cut everything out first, then weed after. Because sometimes I see unused areas that I can save for more future projects. I like to collect scraps and potentially use them, but most of the time they just sit forever unused and I'm labeled a hoarder, but they have potential, just not right now. Now it's time to weed everything out. Make sure you're taking out all the inside of the letters or numbers and you're not like me accidentally cutting out some areas. It's savable. No one will know but me, and now you too. Or if you look closely then you can tell. I just went back to find the rest of the tail to apply back on. Now it's time to apply the vinyl. I use the same brand adhesive paper. I'm not sponsored. I just found really good reviews on Amazon and bought rolls so I didn't have to buy small amounts. Since I know I will be using a lot of these adhesive and black vinyl, I just cut it to size to fit the welcome word to apply on the foam board. I'm always a guesstimated person, so sometimes it will be uneven, but this is how I apply my vinyl. I fold a side end and slowly slide it on like so. You can apply the whole thing uncut, but I'm a weird frugal type of person who likes to do it the long way and try to save as much as I can. So I reused my adhesive paper to apply the date on the bottom before putting the rest of the wordings in the middle. This is my way of guesstimating to make everything fit as well. I'm always guessing and eyeballing everything as I go. I'm sure you could draw a line down the middle, fold the middle of the vinyl to see where the middle is before applying, or if you have money, buy that fancy laser people have to make sure it's even. I want one, but I don't need it because I'd never use it again after forever until I need it again. I already collect too many hobbies. Anyways, this is the final result all finished. This is all I'm gonna do and show because this is all I was requested to do. My client will be coming by to pick it up for their event and they will be adding their own flower and whatnot to the welcome sign. Thank you for watching and I hope it was easy to follow even though there was a lot of steps. This is how they set up and added their flowers to the welcome sign. They soaked the foam and used real flowers. When soaking the foam, remember to put some type of saran wrap or something to hold the water from it leaking onto the board. Whether you do this for fun or as a business, I hope it inspires you to make it too. Have fun with it. The only limit is your imagination. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below if you're planning to make it for a wedding, baby shower, or someone's birthday. It's definitely a really cute welcome sign that makes it look like a 3D flower bouquet. It would definitely look cute with a picture frame border too.